So it is 6:30, so we're going to get started. I want to say welcome everybody to the December Street Life Committee meeting, Community Board 8. My name is Abraham Salcido and I chair this committee. Few rules of the road for today. We're going to go down the agenda and I'm going to invite every applicant to state their name and speak to their application, giving us a quick summary, helpful information about those applications, or hours of operations, whether there have been any kind of complaints, whether it's an accessible location. So that's all helpful preemptive questions, which we will ask. I will then turn to members of the public to see if there are any questions about the application from them. And lastly, I will turn to my fellow committee members for any questions or comments. As a reminder, any decisions or resolutions we pass here will go to the full board meeting, and that will be on Wednesday, December 14th, for a vote by the full board. Lastly, just a couple of reminders, make sure that any comments, questions are addressed to me as chair, no cross-talking, please. Additionally, just a friendly reminder that everyone should follow rules of decorum and allow every speaker to respect anyone that is unable to follow or adhere to that principle will be muted and will not be allowed to further participate. Okay, so with that, Will, I'll turn it to you for the technical rules of the road. Or Robert.
Sure, Abraham. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except the committee chair, Abraham, and the presenters. Following the presentation, co-chair, the chair, Abraham, will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon, pressing the raise hand, not the wave or the thumbs up. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, or lower your hand back down. If you're on the phone, it is *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the chair calls on you. The chat is for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems. Not to ask questions of the chair. He will not see these chats. If you have an older version of Zoom, you will need to go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support.
Great, thank you very much. And then lastly, before I call on the switch to the first line of the agenda, just making sure I have the right tally of present committee members. I have myself, Addison, Barbara, Cause, Evan, Judy, Casey, Marco, Robin, and Russell. If I missed anyone, let us know, but otherwise that's the group I am starting with for now. Okay, with that said, let's start with the first item on the agenda, item 1A. Do I have a representative for 1638 Pizza Core, new application for wine, beer, and cider?
Abraham, I think I see him here. I see someone who I've been corresponding with, so I'm going to assume this is him. So give me 1 second. Marek, you're the representative for 1638 Pizza Corp, right?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Yes, hi.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, my name is.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Marek Schwed. I'm here with Abe, who's the principal of the corporation, 100% shareholder. We're here presenting a beer and wine license application for 1638 Pizza Corp.
Great, thank you very much. And then for the purposes of the reporting, I see food drink ratio of 80% food, 20% drink. Hours of operation 9 to 2 Sunday to Thursday and 9 to 4 Friday to
Hello?
Saturday.
No, I'm trying to see if anybody can hear us. Unmute.
Yes, you're unmuted.
Let me speak to her. Let me speak to her. Call just okay. Let me call her. Let me I'll call you back. Okay.
The problem here.
Are we offering any more information on the application or?
Yes, absolutely. So this is going to be mostly. I thought you were reading what's in the application.
Oh yes,
So,
I heard voices from the ABE connection, so I didn't know if they were offering additional information.
I'll fill you in. So this is going to be mostly pizzeria. Abe already operates within 4 or 5 establishments in Manhattan. One of them being in vicinity of CB8. It's called La Mia Pizza. This is going to be a little larger establishment. That's why he wants to have beer and wine to augment sales. He's been in the pizza business for a very long time. This place is going to have about 48 seats and 24 chairs. Typical pizzeria basically, and he's asking for beer and wine license.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Marek. So now I will turn to any members of the public. If there's any members of the public that have questions or comments on this application, please let me know. Otherwise, I will go to my committee members. And I see Marco has his hand up since I see no one from the public.
Thank you, Abraham. I would like to put a motion. The motion is to approve as presented. Is anybody can second? Thank you.
Barbara is seconding. Cause, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Is there any structure or enclosed partition on the sidewalk?
The place is still under construction, technically.
On the
he's not.
sidewalk? Wait a minute, on the sidewalk, I don't care about the street. Is there any enclosed structure on the sidewalk?
No. There's nothing in the front of the place.
Okay, and okay, that's it, thanks.
Scott, do you want to call a question while I have you?
Yeah, man, if I can, yeah, call the question.
Great, okay. Judy, do you have a question or did you want to call a question?
Second, calling the question.
Okay, great. So if any, we're going to call the question. If anyone's opposed, give me an indication. Otherwise, we'll go to the roll. Rebecca, are you opposed to calling a question?
No, just call on me after when you start doing the vote.
Great. Okay, great. So seeing none opposed to calling a question, we'll go for the roll. So the way this will work, everyone will go down as an approval, as it's a motion to approve. If anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me a sign and I will inquire. And okay, Rebecca, so what is your vote?
Can you just not mark me as voting because I joined right when the question was called, so it would be inappropriate for me to vote on the item.
Okay, I will keep you out of this vote. Great. Okay, so last call, voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining. Otherwise, this will go down as a unanimous 10-0 approval. So thank you very much, and good luck to Abe and to the new endeavor.
Thank you.
Did you have Addison as on your list?
I do have Addison on my list.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the only difference from the beginning is I think that Rebecca joined. Okay. Judy, did you have a question?
Yes,
Please tell us.
yes. I think you should read off the names of who's here, who voted tonight. Just so
Sure.
we have that in the record.
So who I have for this vote was myself. I have you, Judy. I have Russell, Addison, Barbara, Kaz, Evan, Casey, Marco, and Robin. Okay, great. So now moving on to the next item, which is item 1B. So I have a representative for Green 71 LLC, DBA Green Kitchen, new application for liquor, wine, beer, and cider.
Abraham, I have Michael Kelly as the representative, and I see him raising his hand.
Okay, great. Mr. Kelly, how are you?
Good. How are you? How's everybody?
Good, good, good. Thank you. So do your thing.
All right. This is an on-premise liquor license application for Green 71 LLC, doing business as the Green Kitchen. Our address is 1325 Second Avenue. We're at the corner of East 70th Street and the spot formerly occupied by 5 Napkin, who had an on-premise liquor license from 10/28/15 to its recent closure in September. Will be a full-service restaurant like our other Green Kitchen at 1619 Second Avenue, which opened in August of 2018 with an on-premise liquor license. The other Green Kitchen at 1475 First Avenue is owned by family members. We'll have 25 tables and 60 seats. We amended our questionnaire that had 27 tables and 64 seats and a 12-seat bar. Our hours of operation will be 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. We will participate in the open restaurant seating program with 7 tables and 28 seats on the sidewalk on Second Avenue. There'll be no structure on the sidewalk. There is no street seating on Second Avenue. It's a bus lane. We will have street seating on 70th Street with tables and chairs in a structure on the street, but no seats and tables on the side. There is background music only. And this is a built-out restaurant that is already ADA compliant. If there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Peter Kasimis is also on. He's one of the owners.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so with that, I will turn to members of the public. If there's any members of the public with questions, comments on this item, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will turn to my fellow committee members. Giving it one more second. Seeing none, I will turn to committee members. So Kaz, I see your hands up.
There's going to be no structure on the sidewalk on the avenue or the side street, correct?
That is correct.
And the one on First Avenue is permanently closed?
Peter?
That is correct.
Second Avenue at the beginning and over time had some problems with street, sidewalk congestion and all that type of thing. Are we going to be expecting the same at the lower, at the 70th side?
No, that was an issue which we were able to remedy. That was really kind of the result of the initial onset of the COVID epidemic. We've had no issues since we were able to remedy the last issue, and we've been operating in a more of a normal capacity. So there's no expectation that that will ever be a problem.
Now, somewhere I heard somebody say that there's going to be lights and live music. Is that so or not?
No, there's no plan for any live music. In terms of lights, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to.
Somebody just asked me, they said that somebody spoke to one of the owners and lights and live music was mentioned. I'm not sure who it was or.
I'm not really sure. I mean, we're going to have lights in the restaurant.
In the restaurant.
Right.
But you're not going to have any bright lights illuminating the Green Kitchen sign like you do at the other places.
We may have signage. It is permitted within the confines of the lease.
Okay,
but nothing that would be, that should be impacting the building in any way, shape, or form.
okay, and there's no live music.
No.
No, we're
Okay,
gonna there'll be background music only, and that's how the application will be filed.
okay. But hasn't the SLA changed lately that you are allowed to have live music in the restaurant? Was that ever put through or not, or?
Well, if you apply for live music on your application, you could have it as, you bring it up at the community board, of course, and it'd
Right.
be part of your method of operation, but we would not be doing that.
Okay, so there's no dancing girls or live music?
Maybe some waitresses in the kitchen, but not outside.
Thanks, that's all I have.
Thanks, Cos. With that, I'll go to Evan.
Thanks. So I'll start by saying that my wife and I take our 3-year-old daughter to your 84th Street restaurant probably multiple times a month. So we're big fans of your operation and
Thank you.
really enjoy going there. I just wanted to clarify one thing and then follow up with a question. The restaurant on First Avenue, I think Michael had said, was owned by family members. Is that a distinct operation from yours, or they are?
No, it's the same. It was our operation. It's a family-owned business, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all the same ownership group.
So I know I don't. My understanding is that this is not why the restaurant closed, but I know that it was shut down for some time for sanitation issues. And while not necessarily directly relevant to our consideration today, I was just curious if you could talk to that and
Sure.
what steps the restaurant ownership has taken to mitigate those issues.
Yeah, so by and large, the one of the main reasons why we were temporarily closed, obviously, again, this was remedied as we did reopen, stemmed from the fact that we had ongoing issues with the landlord. That's part of the reason why we decided to walk away there. Basically, we had, for lack of a better word, kind of a deadbeat landlord for a period of time, after which we were made aware of the fact that the building was in foreclosure, which put us in a kind of an odd position as we were trying to extend the lease there. Effectively, we needed to make certain changes to the infrastructure of the space, which required us to have access to other parts of the building. We were not allowed or kind of given the opportunity to do so because we did not have an ongoing relationship with the landlord at the very end there. Regardless, we were able to kind of rectify any issues that presented themselves and we were able to reopen, but that was effectively the extent of it. Prior to that, we never had any issues in the 15 years that we were at that location. We have not had any similar issues at the 84th Street location. So it's our intention to run, like a clean shop, so to speak, in multiple ways and just to continue operating in a capacity similar to the 84th Street location.
If I remember correctly, Peter, there was a backup of sewage that was coming from another part of the building. It backed up into our.
It was a few different things, Mike. We also had basically a flood that came from upstairs. And again, in our experience, in operating these businesses, there are times where you have to be able to work in tandem with your landlord. And unfortunately, we had a little bit of a toxic relationship with ours there towards the end of our lease, which presented some problems. And again, that's part of the reason why we decided to move on from that location. In addition to the kind of the whole legal aspect now where the building again is in foreclosure and there's temporarily been a kind of a property management group assigned to operating it. So yeah, that's pretty much the extent of what happened.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, then moving on to Barbara.
That's what's on their website. I think I'm thinking of when it's not on municipal land and when it's.
Can we call the question?
Great. Do I have a?
And I just
thumbs
want to
up on
say, I'm
that?
glad you're opening up the second one because often I can't get into your first one because it's so crowded and well loved. So,
Okay, well, yeah, we'll do our best to try and accommodate everyone. Thank you.
okay.
I'll go to Judy. I think you might have a comment or question, but then if not, you can also then call a question.
Yes, I wanted to know when they were planning on opening at this location.
So to answer that, Judy, we don't have a definitive timetable yet. We're currently, I would say, in the early phases of construction. Our hope is to be open at the very latest, just to kind of because it corresponds to our free rent period, by April. Otherwise, I'm going to be a little bit stressed out. But yeah, that's kind of, I would say, the rough estimate right now.
Okay, well, we're glad to have somebody fill that space, and welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I call the question if no one else has their hand raised.
Sorry, Barbara called the question, but I'll take that as a second.
Second.
Great. Okay, so your question has been called. If anyone's opposed to calling the question, give me an indicator. Otherwise, we will go.
Hey,
to...
Abraham, before you move on, I see somebody named Bobby who is waving at the screen and may have a question. She's nodding her head yes.
Okay.
You want to?
Go ahead and move this over.
Bobby, look for an unmute button.
Got it going. Thank you. Welcome. And I just have a question about the outdoor dining on 70th Street, because I am in the building, and there is, the building keeps its trash all along there. And previously, when 5 Napkins was there, it made it nearly impossible for the building's trash removal. So that's my only comment to you, because we can't move our trash anywhere else. And with the rodent issues that we have, that's my main concern with 70th Street outdoor dining areas, because I think I heard you said you want to put up a shed, but the shed can't have access because there's a tree there, there are emergency doors, there's your delivery food door, and then the trash goes there. So have you thought about that at all?
Mike, I don't know if you want to jump in.
Well, the shed is going to be on the street. And I mean, we could talk to the landlord.
realize that.
I'm sorry?
I realized that you said
Yeah.
it
Okay,
was going to be on the street.
So we would have no sidewalk seating. I think when we look at the building of the shed, we can talk to the building about it, see where they put their garbage. And we can probably keep the shed away from the garbage area.
I think that is going to be very difficult, because I will tell you that there is no other place to put the trash, with the exception in front of the back entrance to the building. And it caused major problems having a shed where it was with 5 Napkins, because there was no place to put the trash. And it was a constant argument and fight, rodents. So that's my only issue with everything that you're saying. I welcome you. I used to frequent all your restaurants. I think you run a great ship, but I will tell you the outdoor shed might be a significant issue in light of trash collection and egress and entrance into the building itself with the service entrances. It is an issue. So I would really encourage a conversation before any shed is installed, because the building was extremely happy and the community board worked with the building to have 5 Napkins, which was abandoned for a while, taken down. So I encourage.
Okay, we'll definitely talk with the landlord and try to find out what the problems were with the residents and the garbage and build a shed accordingly. I think
Well,
5 Napkins went all the way down the side of the building.
No, not all the way down,
Not all
but
the way down?
a big strip, and the trash goes towards the corner. So that way there's easy pickup. So I'm just giving you a
Okay.
heads up that.
Well, we'll
Thank
talk with the landlord to find out what the problems were with the residents. We want you to come eat there. We don't want you to be mad at us.
And just to piggyback off that for 1 second, Bobby, I had an initial conversation with Vita Cohen. And she had recommended that I actually reach out to an individual that I guess is the head or one of the members of the condo board. So I am planning to have kind of an initial meeting at some point in the near future, and I can bring that up. And we are, as Mike suggested, we're definitely trying to work with the building as much as possible. She also had an issue, or she voiced some concerns about rodent problems. I think we will do our best again to adhere to whatever kind of guidelines are being thrown out there. I think to be fair and to be honest, I think there's a larger scale rodent problem within Manhattan itself that is unfortunately not fixable, but yeah, we're planning on working as well as we possibly can with the building and with the immediate community. So we will definitely address that in our meeting with the board and figure out a way to make it work for everyone.
I look forward to meeting with you, and so that we did address, our building as a whole did address a big rodent issue because of 5 napkins, and we haven't had the issues since they've been gone. So our residents were quite happy, but I do look forward to meeting with you and going over all this. So thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, I see 3 hands of committee members. Just one point is the question has been called, so I will inquire what these comments are, but if it's been called, we can't take any more substantive points on this one. So Valerie, I see your hands up first.
I appreciate that. I just, I heard what Peter said about meeting with the building. I mean, the community board was instrumental in helping that building with the rat problem when 5 napkins left. So on this approval, I appreciate also what Mr. Kelly's saying is going to meet with the landlord, but I would just like to get more of a commitment from Green Kitchen that before any shed is placed on the side of the street, that they, in addition to talking to the landlord, will, commit to have an agreement with the shareholders. Because yes, Peter, there are rats all over Manhattan, but being the president of the East 72nd Street Neighborhood Association, the problem was extremely aggravated on that block by that shed. So can we get some more of a commitment there about before the shed goes up? I don't know if that's an amendment, Abraham, to the approval, but just like we made the approval contingent on with the new club on Madison Avenue with reaching an agreement with the shareholders in the building next door, I think we should give the same consideration to this building.
If we are to do that, it would be if we want to add it as a stipulation, in which case I'd have to defer back to Barbara to whether she'd be willing to accept an amendment to add a stipulation. But firstly, I guess the question would be to Peter and to Michael, whether that would be a stipulation they would agree to.
Meeting with the building and talking with them and coming up with a solution. I don't see why not.
That's great. Barbara, I think Barbara was saying yes, so I appreciate everybody.
Barbara was accepting the amendment. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So
we're looking forward to Green Kitchen in our neighborhood too.
Okay, go right ahead.
Great. Okay, so next, Mrs. Brown.
Yes. My issue was the stipulation in meeting with the stakeholders, and since that's already been resolved and it's going to be stipulated, then I can support this application. So we can go forward and call the question. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, then we have to recall the questions. If you'd like to recall the question, we can do that. Okay. All right. So we have it. Anyone's opposed to calling a question on the new modified approval with the stipulation? Give me a signal. Otherwise, I'll go to the roll. So for this one, this is approval. So unless you are voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, you will go down as an approval. And just before I do that, for this one, from our last.
And so they're, I mean, pretty much all.
Last vote, I have additional committee members. I have, if you're voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me an indication. Otherwise, this will be a unanimous approval. Okay, seeing none, so this will be a 14-0 success. Look forward to having you open.
Not that I know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Okay, next item. Do I have the representative for Lemanaki DBA Chino's 1748 First Avenue?
Abraham, I just want to make sure for that last vote that you had also Jane Partial here.
Yes,
too?
I have. Yep, I have 14 on that. So I have myself, Judy, Russell, Addison, Barbara, Cause, Evan, Casey, Marco, Robin, Rebecca, Jane, Mrs. Brown, and Valerie for a 14 count.
Awesome.
If I missed anyone? Okay, think not.
That's my count
Okay,
as
thank
well.
you. Good, perfect. So do we have the representative for Tino's, 1C? Yes, at the law offices of Cannon, Kearney.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Tell us your name and a little bit about the application, please.
Oh, okay. Well, good evening, Community Board 8. My name is Cannon C. Kearney. I am here on behalf of Lemanaki Inc., DBA Tino. It will be a very intimate Greek restaurant that's going to be on First Ave between 90th and 91st Street. The restaurant will not have outdoor seating. It is approximately 30 individuals who will be able to eat again at the Greek restaurant. The principal is Mr. Evangelos, who has experience in the liquor field. He is currently looking to branch out on his own, and so that's why he created Lemanaki. Currently, the restaurant is open, but it's only doing delivery. They have not begun to seat individuals inside. We are seeking a liquor, wine, beer, and cider license. And as far as the method of operation, it will be solely background music, recorded, no live music. We sent pictures to the community board. So as you can see, there's no room for live entertainment. There's no room for too much of anything except for patrons to be able to enjoy authentic Greek food. Again, I am here with the principal, Mr. Evangelos, and if anyone has any questions, we are here to answer them.
Thank you, Kenneth. Just for the recording, food drink ratio 70%, 30, 70-30 food drink, hours of operation 12 to 10 daily. Okay, so first I'll go to members of the public. If there's any member of the public with a question or comment on this application, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I will then go to my fellow committee members, and I will go with Barbara first.
First, what are you replacing? I'm trying to picture where it is.
Good evening, Barbara. So actually the restaurant that was there, I don't believe there has been anything there for quite some time. My client has been in the restaurant for approximately a year. And since it's been there, he has not opened. Essentially, he was switching over from gas to electric.
Oh, is that why he didn't open? That was another question. And any outdoor dining?
No, Barbara, there will be no outdoor dining at all.
And ADA accessible, I assume?
That is correct. It is ADA accessible. There are 2 restrooms for patrons. Yes.
That are on the same floor.
That is correct.
Great, thank you. Is it on the east or west side of the street? I'm trying to picture where it is.
1 second, my apologies. It is on the west side of the street. Excuse
West
me.
side.
East side of the street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Mrs. Brown?
Yes, call the question, please.
Okay, great. Do I have a thumbs up for calling the question? Good. Okay, if anyone's opposed to calling the question, give me a sign, otherwise I will go to the roll. Okay, good. So then this will go down as an approval. If anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, please give me a sign. Voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, give me a sign. Otherwise, this will go down as a unanimous approval. I don't believe the tally has changed, so it will be 14-0 approval. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to item 2A. Do I have a representative for Tuscan Provisions LLC, DBA Poppy?
Abraham, I see
Hari,
them. Yep.
Hari Nathan is waving his hand.
Hi there, chairs. We have Sonica ready as well from our office. One of the principals is here as well. Hold on one sec. Doug Snyder is on here. Doug Snyder, there he is.
Hi, everyone.
So should we begin?
Yes, please.
Good
Okay,
evening,
so this-
board and members of. Sorry about
that. This is Tuscan Provisions doing business as Poppy. They're located at 824 Madison Avenue. This is the building is 824 Madison. It's actually located on 69th between Madison and 5th Avenue. I'm going to pass this on to my colleague Sonica Redding, and she's going to present the application.
Good evening, board and members of the public. I am an attorney with Juan Kalyan and Maddox. As Harry said, Poppy is a cafe that's been operating on 69th between 5th Avenue and Madison Avenue. From February, it currently serves breakfast, lunch, pastries, and a coffee menu. We expect the sales to be 90% of food and non-alcoholic drinks and 10% of alcoholic drinks. It is in a 5-floor building, which is mixed commercial and residential. On the ground floor, 271 square feet. It has 18 seats and 4 tables. It has soft recorded background music. It's essentially a cafe, and we don't anticipate any disturbance to the community or anyone around us. That's basically all we have. If you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer it.
I'll just add in here the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's 7 days a week. They have been operating in this location, Sonica said, since February. They have a tavern wine license, which is beer, wine, and cider. They're adding full liquor in order to add some brunch cocktails to the menu. They've been operating without any. I'm sorry, my 6-year-old's jumping on the couch here. I'm doing this from Zoom. I apologize. They've been operating since February, and this is just to add some brunch cocktails to the menu. Doug Snyder is one of the principals, and he's here tonight. There are a few outdoor tables and chairs pursuant to the NYC Open Restaurants program. There is no parklet or shed or road bed seating anticipated. And so we'll open up for any questions.
Great, thank you very much. So first I'll go to the public. If there's any member of the public that has questions or comments on this application, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, then I'll go to my fellow committee member, Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Did the applicant state that there was outside seating and eating? I was a little unclear.
Yes, there are seats just on the sidewalk directly in front pursuant to the NYC Open Restaurants program. There is no shed or roadbed seating, and there's none anticipated.
Okay. And it meets the sidewalk clearance?
Yes, there's 8 foot, there's 11 feet of clearance. I believe, no, there's 15 or 16 feet of clearance, and then I think they only go out 6 feet or so.
Okay. Now, with regard to ADA compliance, are the restrooms, do they follow ADA compliance? How many do you have?
Yeah.
On one floor?
Yes, well, the occupancy, again, there's only, I believe, 4 tables and 18 seats inside. They have they have a 2-bathroom waiver, so there's 1 bathroom and it is ADA compliant.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much. Call the question. I can support this applicant. Good luck.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion to approve. I'll get a thumbs up. Yep, for a second. Okay. So we'll call a question. Anyone opposed to calling a question? Okay, seeing none, then I'll go to the vote. This is going down as an approval, so I will mark you down as a yes, unless you're voting no, abstaining or not voting for cause, in which case give me an indicator. Voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining. And otherwise the tally is the same of 14-0. So seeing none, this is a unanimous approval. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. So that is the conclusion of the street life portion. The next agenda item is a discussion of the cannabis licensing and regulation. And this is a joint item with the Health, Seniors, and Social Services Committee. I'm very glad to have Barbara and Rebecca Dangor here for this discussion. So the intention, and Robert, you can unmute Barbara and Rebecca. Okay, so the intention of this is given that the Office of Cannabis Management on their meeting of the 21st approved their first conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses, but also approved the regulations, the program of regulations for the establishment of how the licenses are going to be or to be issued regarding cannabis dispensaries. We thought it would be good to have a conversation with the community so that we can have input as to what we'd like to see in these regulations. The regulations are quite long, and obviously we still want to go through them more. But we did want to take the opportunity because now that the regulations have been proposed, there is a 60-day public comment period. So we wanted to start the conversation to take the opportunity to get input of things of what we'd like to see, in particular because there is a municipality input provision. So very much like in street life, for the licenses, there will be a 30-day comment period for or notice period given to municipalities to comment on application. So that's kind of the high-level overview. Barbara, Rebecca, would you like to add anything further to that?
I wrote in the minutes, I wrote the minutes, and I wrote a list that came from our committee of some wish lists that I think can be, and I have a couple more that I'd like to add after speaking to lots of people and so on. And so I don't know if you want to go through that list to begin with. You want to start fresh, or how you want to do it, Abraham?
I mean, I would be happy to start with your list, and then you can feel free to supplement the ones that you come up with since, and then we can open the discussion further to see if there's any other items that the group here would like to add.
Okay, well, one of the issues that came up, and I know a couple of us listened to the borough president's leadership meeting on it. One of the things that came up is that there are many levels of enforcement. If you're this type of and that type, there's enforcement. We know that there's illegal shops that are not getting closed fast enough. So one of my wish lists is that there was a streamlining of the enforcement agencies. In other words, you go to one agency and that can be it. What was discussed is that there's a pending bill by our own state senator, Liz Kruger, that may facilitate it, but I think it's something that should be on our wish list, is one thing that I think that many of us felt strongly about. Okay, should I go on with others?
Yes. Yep, please go ahead.
It was unclear, but we think the answer is no. So there's two types of licenses. One that's already been given out to, I forget what it is, something like 8 or 9 in Manhattan, is the CARD program. That stands for CAU, I forget it was a cannabis.
It's a conditional adult use retail dispensary.
Right. And this has been given out to those that have been adversely affected by the drug wars, either those that have had some jail time because of it, or family members, or so on. I believe we're uncertain whether the community board will have any say about it. We will have say about the regular licenses that come out. I think one of the things we said, if it's at all possible, we would like a say on everyone, just like we do with the liquor license that we heard today. It would go through the Street Life Committee, Abraham's committee, the Street Life Committee to okay it and discuss it. One of the issues, it wouldn't be through the SLA, it would be through the Office of Cannabis Management, I believe, the OCM. So it would be slightly different, but it would still be that committee. So one is, can we expand it and say that we see all, and we definitely want an input with it. Other things is that we just wanted to make sure that there's, that the signage is not child friendly, that the ones we see now are very big neon signs and so on, that to me look very enticing for young people, and that that there is very visible which is the legal shops as opposed to the ones that aren't. And what we added is also that maybe it's some sort of campaign that the landlords should know that they do not rent to illegal. Make sure that if you're renting to a cannabis establishment, make sure it's legal, because you may be without a tenant before too long. So that was another thing that we had. And we want PDA and so on. We want to make sure, I think that's what we had. There's two things. There's two more things I would want, and I'm not sure you're going to say it's within the purview of what we're talking about now. One is usage. When can we use it? And one of the, because that has to do with licensing. So one of the questions that came up is who can sell it. Bars can't sell it. If there's anybody having a liquor license cannot sell the cannabis, but anybody else can. So like, for instance, a diner that may not have liquor can sell cannabis along with it. Do we want to know that we have some sort of more control about it? Will it be only edibles as opposed to smoking and so on? It is one of the issues that we have. And the other issue that came up that I don't know what say we can have, but was a shocker to me, because it's not federally approved, you cannot buy it with a credit card. As of today, I got notice. I questioned whether you can use a debit card. I was told that it is uncertain at this point. I will tell you, I believe in Denver and it may be Connecticut, I'm not sure, they can't even use a credit card. What my son in Denver says is that there's been a huge amount of crime with these shops, because if you're going to rob a shop, I'd rather rob one that we know has a lot of cash rather than not much cash. And this does have a lot. I don't know what we can say about it, but if there could be some way of setting up something that you don't use paper money, would probably be a safer way of going with it. And the other issue I heard from talking to people is that garbage has increased, that there is a real issue with garbage, and what can we do? I don't know what we could do about it, but it's an issue and we certainly want to address it and make sure that that doesn't add to the garbage we already have.
right? I mean, that's all great. Thank you, Barbara, for providing that.
I just want to add a couple things as well. The first is we're hoping that the next Health, Seniors, and Social Services Committee meeting sometime in the new year when session is started will discuss a bill, some legislation of Liz Kruger's to deal with some of the other issues that we're not going to be able to address in this meeting about the legalization. The second is I would be interested in this committee's opinion on adding, just as we do for liquor licenses, some stipulations based off of the list that Barbara read, such as license clearly made available somewhere within the store, easily visible. Barbara spoke to kind of the neon signs and making it seem like it's a space for children. Maybe we can have a stipulation about that. So I think that's also something I'd be interested in hearing this committee's opinion on what we can do to kind of replicate what we've done for.
That's what I meant by the non-child friendly, not to have a child. I sort of meant that type of thing, but just generally, we don't want these neon signs in our area.
Yeah.
Or any.
So I think what's great, the discussion here is almost twofold. So one is the what type of feedback do we want to provide for the kind of the 60-day comment period, which we have. So I think this first conversation, start compiling that list, which I know you've already done, Barbara and Rebecca, and we can keep adding to it so that we can, propose a fuller list to then kind of be voted by the full board, so we can send as a kind of either as a formal resolution or just formally from this committee for that comment period. Secondly, is you're right, because the licenses will be reviewed by this committee, is agreeing on or seeking input on the types of stipulations that we want. And I think many of those asks are going to be the same, in the same vein that we have the streetlight stipulation. So yes, that would definitely be a thing in terms of, not making it attractive to kids and having it prominently displayed, all of those types of things. So I think we can glean those from our comprehensive list for the 60-day comment period and have those be part of our formal application, kind of process and form that we, as we compile it for when we start to receive these applications. Valerie.
Okay.
Thanks. I just had a question. My understanding was that these shops were supposed to be more like, if you've ever been in some states where they have ABC stores, that there was not supposed to be, unlike these vaping shops, there was supposed to be strict no signage whatsoever. Very almost like white, fronts with no, basically saying, cannabis shop, period. That's it. Was that in anything that you saw?
No.
And then the other thing is,
signage, there's signage things, and I tried to contact the zoning committee and I didn't get a response because they're in charge of signage. So there are rules we have generally about signage, but I didn't say anything where the dispensaries would be less signage than
because we had somebody who was interested in coming into the 72nd Street sort of environment and opening one of these with the veterans license, which comes before everybody else's.
The regular license.
And he was telling me that even though the vaping shops could have this neon and shiny and bright, whatever, flickering lights, that was not going to be the case with these particular establishments.
So the big thing on that is they're also going to be illegal, right? Unlicensed shops. And that's, I think, part of what Liz Kruger's bill is hopefully going to address with how to deal with them. So we have to kind of be aware with that, be aware of that. Maybe the shops we're complaining against are not licensed, but based on our meeting, I think that decision on whether or not they were allowed to use that type of signage is not finalized as of yet.
Okay. Well, then my other question is, why is this different than anybody who sells alcohol or serving alcohol? You're not supposed to be within how many feet of a school or a church?
That will be the same. That will be the same.
Okay.
500-foot rule. Am I right, Abraham?
Yes.
They said yes. Now, what we did here, though. That's different. I believe, Abraham, that you can't have two liquor shops right next door to each other or two bars right next door to each other. Is that true?
There's within a certain radius, you have how
Within a
many can
certain
be.
radius. And I think when we asked, they said that that is not the case with these shops, that you can have more, but it would be up to us, the community board, to say we don't like the location because. But that is, I think that's a difference than what we have with the liquor laws.
There is, so when I was reading the regulations, there is, they can't be within 1,000 feet of each other, if I interpret that correctly. But there's not the same spherical, like 200-foot radius kind of construct, but there is some parameters around that, and that would be something we would be able to weigh in on.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, unless the fines for landlords are going to be astronomical, there is not going to be really any disincentive to renting to an illegal shop.
Unless you're getting rid of the illegal shop. So you rent it and then you have an empty store and it takes forever to get out and so on.
I know, but the fines have to be punitive.
But not unless the next landlords, what it would be if you're selling under 21 as an example, or one of the illegal drugs, they will be able to go and confiscate your drug, the materials, which means that you don't stay in business is their hope. So if they don't stay in business, my point was that the landlord would have a tougher time they'll have to start renting the store again and all of that.
Right, but I honestly don't see that as a big disincentive because by the time, so what I'm saying on the wish list is I think we should really ask for punitive fines because by the time whoever's in charge of enforcement gets around to get there, the landlord's already got 1 year or 2 years worth of rent. And they don't have to forfeit it. So if there's forfeiture involved, so that's all I'm saying. I think it should be really a strict penalty for the landlord who does this. So, and I appreciate everyone's work on this. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
It's very interesting. You realize how complicated it is. And so, I'm going to say one other thing. They had Mohit wasn't able to be on. He's not on, is
right.
he wrote the
he's
legislation in Connecticut, and I met with him and talked to him about it. There evidently was a push to say not smoking, that it would be just edibles and not smoking. And I gather there was pushbacks at certain, communities that want smoking and so on, because the smoking causes a problem. We say that you can't drink a beer while walking in the street. Well, where are you going to smoke cannabis? You can't in my building. We have a no smoking building. You can't in a restaurant. You can't in any other way. So are we going to allow people to smoke walking on the street? And that would be something else that we discuss. And I guess the answer is yes, but those are some of the issues that come up.
I feel like that type of regulation is probably a little bit beyond the scope of this particular thing. So I think that's a different type of enforcement. But I think if for example, if the smoking is going to be permitted within the store, that brings a whole other level of question of, okay, well, even going back to the stipulations to make sure, are these places properly kind of insulated, ventilated, so that they're not creating any kind of nuisance for, whatever building they're in. So those are other things too for us to make sure that we're paying attention to. Marco, I have you next.
Thank you. I did a little research about that in street vendors because there is trucks that sell cannabis.
Illegal.
Yes, no, it's still legal, believe me or not. And so then I called several times to the office of cannabis and management. They put me on hold all the times and they ran away from me with the question of enforcement. So that is a big issue. No enforcement. They don't have a problem for that. I read everything in the program, and nothing mentioned. They said they're going to enforce, but nothing at all. And the other part is that they mentioned is the signage. Clearly, there is an articulation in this law that it shouldn't be attractive for the children. They are very specific. If you read that, it clearly explains nothing that is that call the attention for the children. So that question, that is not a question at all tonight, because it's already in that part. The second part that I'm concerned is zoning. Zoning, I mean, since before the zoning resolution was prepared or was was enacted, at that time, what cannabis was illegal. So in the zoning resolution is mute about that. So nothing that mentioned any group specific to sell cannabis. And that will be a big issue for zoning, because nobody thought in the present or the future that that the government allows to sell something that was illegal, which is the cannabis. But that, I think, is a very complex issue for zoning. It probably will consider maybe those places that smoke hookah or all these kind of places. But now it's coming the other issue of the licensing. And according with the state, what I hear is they're going to give to a specific people, which is they have some infraction in the past.
That's the court.
Yes, and I think that part it shouldn't be there, but the state apparently they consider that's the right way to go, and I think that is two parts. Enforcement is a big issue, and the other part of the children I think is addressed properly, and I agree with that what they have, and the only situation is you don't have a feedback from the Office of Cannabis Management. They are very nice. They receive the call and they put you on hold. And after that, they close the call. And so it's impossible to have a relationship with them or have a conversation, because my goal was to look what is the enforcement that they propose. And I didn't find anything for the street vendors. Thank you.
Hey, do you want to answer, Abraham, or?
I was going to go in a different, not a different direction, but I was going to say something, but you can go first.
I'm sorry, somebody else's.
Oh, no, you can go first, Barbara. Go ahead.
I could go first.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Marco. As of now, and what they're asking is that you do take pictures, and I have 2 pictures that I haven't sent. And we've also said we could send to Brad Usher, the chief of staff at Liz Kruger's office as a follow-up. And I have to say that I just haven't had a chance to do it. You're absolutely right, Marco. As of now, the enforcement has been close to zero, not zero. There've been some trucks and so on, but close to it. One of my wish lists, and one of the reasons is that there's too many ways of going for enforcement. Marco, it's like the vending committee. Who's in charge of what type of vending, and there's too many levels. And so that was one of my wish lists, that it would be streamlined. The other thing is that Liz Kruger does have a bill that's passed the Senate. It has to go through the Assembly and the governor, and it would probably change. He said, don't even bother reading it yet because it's going to be changed. But basically would give OCM more power. But really it's through the back door. It's to collect the taxes and not to say if anything is illegal that we shut it down. I think we do need more guidelines about quick enforcement if anything is wrong.
Yeah, agreed. And I think you alluded to, I think, until Margaret's point about the OCM, and I think that our best way, or one of the best avenues to kind of get through to them and build that relationship, is leveraging our elected officials, because it sounds like they have some contact there, and I think that'd be able to help get, at least at the outset, kind of help get. They're still relatively new, so I'm sure there's an element of them kind of getting their bearings as to what's going on. But hopefully, as we move forward, we can also develop a relationship with them, because we're obviously going to be working very closely with them. Okay, thank you. So next I will go to Judy.
Yeah, my question is a little different than what we're discussing, because we're discussing new laws and enforcement, etc. And the various issues. But we have a real issue right now, at least in our neighborhood in the 60s. There are a lot of smoke shops. Some of them you need a password, some of them you don't need anything. And they're already selling cannabis illegally. And the police have, because we've been to the police, and they had some enforcement on one particular store. But they went in, but they really, it ended up the store's still in business. Nothing is happening. What are they going to do about? And don't we need something? Don't we need to say something in these laws that we're proposing to Senator Krueger about the existing stores and what's going on now, and closing down the illegal cannabis sales that are going on now? Because there's a lot of it. Practically all the stores here in this area that are smoke shops are selling cannabis.
There was an example, I don't think Stephanie Steckler's on here, but she brought it up, and it was actually Rebecca Seawright's person, Kevin, told me about the same store. There's a convenience store, just a bodega, that has open bins selling by the gram.
So don't we need, so we agree that this is a problem and that it exists. Don't we need to have some kind of write a letter to Liz or a resolution or something about that she needs to include enforcement for existing stores now that are selling the product illegally? I mean, are we out of order to put a resolution on the floor or have the chairs do it by letter? I don't know which is the best way to do it, but I think we need to talk to Liz about what exists now, and they need to do something with the law because the police don't have the power to close them down.
And that was what was said. You were at the health senior meeting, I think, where, you know, and that's what they basically said. I would love to do something, say do it now, but.
Well, so can we pay, I don't know, a resolution?
So
or?
what we discussed at the meeting was basically the Liz Krueger's bill did pass the Senate. It did not pass the Assembly. And her representative said, you know, they've been working with all of the relevant parties on coming up with something that is going to pass the Assembly at the beginning of session, and that they would appreciate our resolution in support of the new version of the bill that isn't public yet. So we can do one now, but
okay, so we can support a bill, even the rest of our board members probably won't. Michelle, for one, will not vote for a bill that she has not read. But I think it's such an important issue. I would say that we are in support of what Liz Krueger is working on for the future. And please make sure that it includes enforcement for existing stores that are selling product illegally.
Can I say what I would like, what I would prefer? Sure. I'm a little uncomfortable with her. I don't know if her bill is strong enough. It's talking about, well, getting taxation from it, and we don't know what that bill is. Can we say that we need something done right now? We need the police or some agency right now to have the ability to go in and shut them all down.
Yeah, I think this is a separate issue in itself from everything else we've been discussing. And I think it's a major issue, really important issue. And maybe we can just pass a resolution about this.
I just want to add one more clarifying thing from her original legislation, which I think is going to continue in the new version, is she wanted to give authority to OCM to actually confiscate marijuana. The big problem we've been having now is no agency feels like they have the jurisdiction to do so. So that is a part of her.
And that's the streamlining part that I talked about, and possibly something to say, do it now. That was,
yeah, I mean, you know, if they're caught doing something illegal, I think the store should be locked down and should be, the drug should be confiscated.
Right.
I mean, I don't see why we can't pass a resolution about what's going on now, and hoping that they will take action to take care of the existing problem. Because if they have all these laws about the new stuff, the existing people are still going to go on selling their product. Even if they don't have
I
a
understand
license.
what you're saying. Can I just say a sideline of what we talked about? When I met with Mohit, we talked about one of the reasons I care very much about it legalized. I think it would be safer. And he said, you know, the illegal stuff hasn't been unsafe, nothing. Well, the day after I met with him, it's in the news that the illegal pot, there has been real, I forget now what it's been laced with, but not fentanyl, but other things that are very, very dangerous. I mean, one of the scary parts is not just that our neighborhood looks awful, not that this is what the new nail shop that we used to have, but it's dangerous for people to have it, and they are selling it to underage people.
Well, I think that we should write a resolution saying all of these statements, that we understand that it's being sold to underage people. We're not sure whether the product is pure and may have other things that will affect the children. And we are, therefore, we resolve that action be taken now to write a law so that enforcement can be carried out against existing stores that are selling product. And this should be addressed to the city as well as the state, I think. I don't know if anyone agrees with that kind of resolution.
So I guess my question would be, is that something we want to do this evening? Is that something to maybe Barbara, Rebecca, and myself, do we want to maybe collaborate on drafting something that maybe we can present at your next committee meeting, just because that would be next in cycle, so we're
Yeah, that would be good. It doesn't have to be done tonight. And I see Jane has her hand up.
Yep. Okay, and then just one last point, or one quick point before I go to Jane on the enforcement issue is that, I forget which representative it was, but they were clear that OCM and especially for the card program, they should ideally want to have enforcement, because the illegal sales undercuts the whole purpose of the card program. The card program was to help and empower individuals who had been persecuted, or whatever the word we want to use, for cannabis violations, to give them an opportunity to succeed. And if you're having all of these illegal operations, then that undercuts that whole program.
100%, and that should all be in the resolution, Abraham, because you're right. If all these people are following the law, and then you have a whole group of people who aren't following the law, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Judy. Jane.
Thank you. I think there's so much naivete surrounding this issue that I'm shocked. I'm shocked that we even legalized marijuana in the first place. You can't walk down any street in New York, the side streets, without smelling the fumes everywhere. Not only that, this whole idea that making them appear unchild friendly is ludicrous. Children today are so sophisticated. Give me a break. They know where to go to get all this stuff before any of us do. Not only that, you're going to start having these guys who sell coffee on the street, who are selling hot dogs on the street. They're going to start selling pot. Illegal marijuana is a huge issue in California. They haven't received the tax revenue they thought they would, because so much pot is now grown illegally and sold illegally. I think Judy's idea of doing some kind of resolution right now is great, but it's not going to stop the underlying proliferation of illegal marijuana being sold everywhere in this town, where somebody thinks they can make a nickel. And we better have our eyes wide open. The quality of life in New York City on the Upper East Side is being just diminished and ruined by these smoke shops that look so awful, that are proliferating everywhere, by now cannabis shops. I can't even believe that this is what's happened to our nation, and now maybe gambling in Times Square. We are pandering to a criminal element across the board, and we better have our eyes wide open. And the first thing to do is at least send a strong letter to someone. There will never be money to enforce these cannabis operations that are illegal. We can enforce it for the vendors. Look at what's happening with the bike lanes and people scared for their lives to cross First and Second Avenue. And now we're going to have more bike lanes on Third. So I just want to get my 2 cents in there that what have we done to our city, to our neighborhoods, and think about it for our future as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And now to our esteemed chair of the board, Russell.
Thanks. So I would propose a resolution, and if it's seconded, speak to it, but the resolution would be to call for immediate identification of an agency to do enforcement in the immediate term, and more enforcement to shut down illegal operators. And I think I would also add, that we want very serious enforcement in the regulations, and also that we want to have a say in all of the licenses, not just licenses, basically all licenses, including the ones that are set aside for, the cart ones. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys are okay with the idea of doing a resolution now on the regulations, or if we don't want to do it, but it seems to me that we could do a resolution tonight on the regulations, at least to some extent. And so my resolution basically would be about both the near-term enforcement challenge, but also what I've heard so far as being the kind of comments people have in terms of what the regulations should have.
I would be supportive of the resolution that you propose in terms of the immediate identification of the agency to oversee enforcement, and we can do that. I probably wouldn't, unless if someone else agrees, like going into the details yet of the regulations until we have like a comprehensive list of what we want to present for during the 60-day comment period, and then maybe follow up with a resolution based on what we've agreed for that comment period.
I'm happy to defer to you guys on that. So if you want to handle it that way, that's fine.
I agree. I think that point is very strong about immediate identification, and maybe we can vote on that as a standalone issue, and then we can keep doing the other things.
I agree.
Okay, great. So we have a.
I want to call the question for that. Is that what we can do, or not yet?
I don't know if we had a second, but I've definitely seconded on that. Let's go to cause.
Yeah. Where does infusion come into all this play?
Where does what?
Infusion, cannabis infused drinks.
I haven't heard of. I'm so naive. I'm sorry, Cos.
I think it's a type of edible that presumably is
Yeah.
going to be among the items that get legalized.
Yeah, but isn't infusion infused in the drinks? I mean, up in Massachusetts, you see signs everywhere. Cannabis infused this, cannabis infused that. So, who is going to be selling that? Is that going to be legal? And what jurisdiction does the city have?
I can answer that. What is said now, I will tell you, coincidentally, we had the meeting the first day that the card licenses were given out. And they were still, we had the borough president's office and the state and Liz Kruger's office there. It seems that any place that is not selling liquor can sell cannabis. And the preferred way is through edibles, which I assume is a drink, as well as the brownies and the gummies. And
You mean they're going to be eligible to get a license? To be
Yes.
clear, they would need a license to sell.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not that
yeah. You
anybody
can
who doesn't
get
sell
it,
liquor
but
can
you will not get a license if you're a bar, or if you're any of the restaurants that came in front of us today, they would not get the license because they're selling liquor.
Okay. Now, with the enforcement, the resolution that Russell put forth, this comes under the state, doesn't it? Cannabis comes under the state?
Yeah.
But city also, the city has, Abraham, do you agree with that? It's
For the licensing aspect, yes, municipalities are allowed to. They can apply some local regulations as well, but it is at the end overseen at the state level.
And the
So the resolution could be addressed to both So we needed to limit ourselves.
But currently the SLA is under the state. The city cannot really do much enforcement as far as liquor licensing. They can enforce the noise, the congestion, but they cannot enforce anything concerning the liquor of the establishment.
I don't know. I mean, it seems to me if somebody was just operating a bar and had no liquor license, would the NYPD be able to shut
No,
them down?
they can't. They won't. It doesn't come under their jurisdiction. It's an SLA enforcement.
Right, but they would be able to, for example, enforce, if they were selling to underage, the NYPD won't be able to shut down the establishment, like formally or revoke the license, but there can be, an enforcement element to it. So that's why I think we can address it to both.
That's what I'm heading to. Any enforcement should also be enforced by city agencies. Any city agency should be able to enforce rather than go to the state. I mean, there's a lot of interagency friction now going on that DSNY can't enforce this, NYPD can't enforce that, and it takes forever. And I think many years ago, I thought Dan Garodnick was going to introduce a bill in the city for any cross-agency enforcement, but I guess that never went anywhere. But we've got to start looking at enforcement, not specifically the DSNY enforce DSNY, the NYPD, the traffic, the this, the that. Any city agency should be able to enforce any city law.
Abraham, didn't we hear that the police would be code to shut down? What role does the New York police? I don't remember. It was brought up. I know the police were brought up, and I don't remember what role they have.
I don't recall either, but just to back up to Kaz's point. No, go ahead, Rebecca.
I believe this went back to the confusion about which agency had jurisdiction over the issue. Which is, It's kind of crazy that anything would get started without having a responsible agency in charge of enforcement. But that was my recollection of the conversation, that they don't think they have the authority.
So to Russell's resolution, I think that we should emphasize we want immediate identification of agency that's going to allow efficient and expedient enforcement, and maybe not get into the details of what we think they need to do that, but that's the overarching messaging of what we want. Is that right, Russell?
Yeah, I mean, we want someone to shut down the illegal operations, and we want them to figure out who it is right away, so that that's not the holdup.
Yeah, but by figuring out who is responsible, that's going to take months or years. The resolution should state that any state or city agency should have the power to shut them down or carry out the enforcement. We've got to be specific in what we want, rather than, we want enforcement. They could say, well, who do you want as enforcement? Is it the state, this agency, that agency? And, we could be going around in circles forever. It should be any state or city agency has the power.
I mean, I think we want to say, or look, we could say we're calling on the state to identify somebody to do it and the city to identify somebody to do it. And basically, inclusively, we want both to do it. And hopefully they, between the two of them, they come up with at least one agency that can enforce it.
But then you're going to have one state, one city.
Yeah, as opposed to now, I don't think anybody's doing it. Or look, I think the alternatives are, or we can say we call on the state and or city to identify an agency to enforce this and be able to shut these down.
Yeah, whatever the wording, but we need to basically be clear that we want enforcement by any agency rather than a specific agency.
Yeah, we're not going to specify. We're telling them that they have to figure out who it is, but I don't think we can call on them. I don't think we don't. You're right. We don't want to pick one because that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna get us anywhere.
Okay. Can I call the question or not allowed?
No.
No. Let's go to Valerie. Can we unmute Valerie?
Sorry, thanks. I mean, but right now, if you're selling it, it's still a criminal offense, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about which agency should enforce it, but
Valerie, I used the word criminal, and it's evidently not criminal. If you go back and listen, it wasn't criminal. What they're able to do now is confiscate the goods. And therefore,
it's a forfeiture penalty. It's a forfeiture penalty, is what it is. That's the, but you can't. But I think what Kaz is saying is correct. Because of the limitations on the enforcement that we've seen in every way, shape, or form, whatever it is. I mean, everybody only has 3 enforcement people throughout the entire city. Unless every agency has the ability to shut it down, it's again, what I'm talking about is like, if going back to my original point about the landlords, right? If you're allowed to confiscate the property and make the landlord liable for allowing this to continue in their building, that gives you somebody that's going to kick them out because they don't want to have the penalty either. Because otherwise they don't care what's happening in their building. And I just don't understand if we go this route now to get them out. by the time we get a law passed to get them out, we'll be in the second phase of the legalization, if you will. I mean, Russell, that's what I don't.
I think that's the purpose of this resolution, is to say we have to do something immediately. We can't wait.
Maybe to incorporate Cause's very important suggestion and not move away from the spirit of Russell's, is to say and or empower other agencies to, do the enforcement.
Well, I think we can specify that we want this done before the regulations are completed and before some sort of permanent agency is established, or basically we want to make it clear that we don't want to wait on that whole process playing out, that this is something, that this is an interim thing that we're asking for.
Right, because right now we're in a limbo. I mean, that's why these guys are doing it, because they've seen the loophole too. Basically what we're saying is close the loophole now.
Yep. That all is good. So, okay, good. Yes, that's right. Well, we can clarify that in the draft that we will prepare. Okay, so next I have Marco.
Thank you. I think I'm not going to repeat what Russell said, but before to pass any resolution or any law, it should be first to establish the enforcement. And the problem of enforcement is, look, in the street vendors. For the street vendors, there are the food vendors and there are general vendors. The food vendors, they regulate the Department of Health, and then for general vendor, Department of Consumer Affairs, and they don't have enough people to cover that. For instance, the Department of Health just only have 7 people to cover the entire city. So if Cause is right, so if any agency enforce this regulation will be great. However, the problem is New York City, they don't want to use, or they don't want to allow that the police department do this role, which should be the role. But I think in general term, we should put it that any agents that it has to be, it has to enforce the regulations. Otherwise, we're gonna lose time, we're gonna lose everything. And I think I don't want to keep repeating the same. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Marco. Okay, Judy.
Call the question.
Okay,
Second.
Great. Okay, so just to summarize, so it's going to be a resolution to call state and city to immediately identify an agency to oversee enforcement and or allow authority to multiple agencies to create the enforcement, and we want this done immediately before the regulations are enforced, so that individuals are not allowed to take advantage of this loophole. That's the synopsis, but that's the spirit.
Yeah, I mean, state and or city, but yeah.
Yeah, state and or city. Yeah. Great. Okay, so question seconded. Is anyone opposed to calling the question? Okay, seeing none, then I will go for the roll. Just want to make sure I have everyone who's here. 1, 2, 3. So I think the only person we lost is Mrs. Brown for this one. Is that right, Robert? You think 13, is that?
I'm seeing 13 as well, and
Okay.
the only person that we lost is Mrs. Brown or my cam as well.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Good. Okay, so if anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining on this resolution, please give me an indication. Otherwise, you will go down as a yes. No, not voting for cause or abstaining. Okay, seeing none. So in that case, this is a unanimous. The resolution is unanimously approved, 13-0.
Okay.
Great.
Can we continue with wish lists? I have at least one more that I want. I just want to say we'll be redoing this when other licenses, there's several other licenses we'll be giving out. One is the growers, and I'm told that Manhattan will not, we don't have to worry about it. We're not going to have any, we'll see whether that's true. But the other is, there will be also delivery, believe it or not. That would be a separate license for delivery. But what I think is the same license is where it can be sold and used. So it seems to me, one of the thoughts is that you have, you know, these pot, what are they called? Socials, like in Amsterdam, what are they called? Coffee shops or anything that is just meant for smoking, just a place for using cannabis. Maybe we'll need special rules for that, rather than going in and just buying it like you would in a, you know, in the smoke shop type of thing, just buying it. And I'm wondering that we would have to be careful. Maybe a wish list would be that those will have to go through the same type of, is it ADA accessible, or the bathrooms there, or what kind of noise you're having? Are you having music? The same as we do for restaurants. Do you agree? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm sorry, I didn't think it out beforehand, and I feel I'm stuttering. But
well, I think for those, you know, there's those we can recommend that for the regulations, but then again, we would also have the ability to incorporate that into our, yeah.
What was said, the only thing we would be able to weigh in is the actual location. Things like, are there too many on one block, and nothing else, which is different than the restaurants. That was said very clearly, but you know, things may change, but that was said very clearly.
When I was reading the resolutions, I'm sorry, the regulations, it did provide that municipalities could have input on things like noise, traffic, other stuff. There was a list that went beyond, that was more akin to the street life restaurant. So, but we can definitely reiterate just to make sure that that's something that does not get dropped. Okay, good. Russell?
Yeah, I think you said it well. I mean, I in a future resolution, my suggestion would be to say that we want community board input that is no less broad than what we have for liquor license. I think is sort of a way to phrase it.
So,
and just, I think, I mean, you know, just generally in terms of thinking about how to look at this, I mean, I think this is sort of how we've been doing it. I mean, ultimately, when we're ready to pass a resolution on the regulations, I think we want to sort of distinguish between what goes into the regulations that the state is making in terms of how this is going to be regulated versus things that we want to do as a board and that we want to do as a street life committee with regard to specific applicants that come before us, because I think those things are somewhat distinct, and I think we have that in mind. But just like I think the latter is definitely stuff we want to sort of think about and discuss, but ultimately I don't think it's going to work its way into a resolution.
Yep, that's fair.
I don't know if it's going to be a resolution or just that we go and represent our wish list. I think it was CB5 or 2, I forget, that have already handed in a wish list to the borough president. They're going over it, and supposedly they'll share and sort of like get a combine a lot of the ideas of the good ideas of the community boards together. is what I understand. I forget if it was 5 or 2 that have already handed in a wish list. So I'm not sure we're going to have a resolution, or it would be this list that we hand in and speak up on. I don't know, Abraham, if you know.
So we can do it anyway, so that we can submit our comments to the email, either whether we want it as a resolution or whether, you know, it's just a list. But I think
to have president is what
to have the force of the board, it has to be a resolution that the full board is voted on.
Yeah.
So and I think, you know, basically many of our resolutions could be thought of as a wish list, in the sense of, you know, here's what we're calling upon such and such agency to do, or what have you.
Great.
But it is going to the city. It is going to the borough president, and it's the city that will be monitoring it.
Okay, so I think we've had a good conversation on this, and I know that the list will continue to develop as we're going back to your committee, and then maybe for next month at ours to finalize and decide, you know, what the final iteration and resolution will be for that. And also great, I'm glad that we were able to get a resolution done tonight. Is there any other thoughts, comments on this? Otherwise, I would.
You did great.
We're at a good place to pause here. Judy?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, I think you're gonna get a lot of thumbs up there. Great. Well, thank you everyone very much. I appreciate the input, very valuable, and I will speak to you all soon. Be well. Have a good night.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.